Hello, role players. This is Cross, and what I'd like to talk to you about today is my Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition Hand Crossbow Fighter build. Why Hand Crossbow Fighter? You're going to be able to engage your opponent at a longer range as opposed to one of your melee counterparts. You're going to start off at a 30-yard range comfortably, and then upgrade to 120 foot, I think I said yards, foot range at a pretty early level if you take the human variant. In character creation, we're going to talk about stat priority. With a point-buy system of rolls, you're going to want to put your points into dexterity and constitution. Dexterity will give you that plus to hit, your damage, your armor class, and your initiative rolls that strength may not be able to if you are a melee-oriented fighter. Your equipment choices. Your starting equipment, you have an option. You can either roll 5d4 and multiply by 10, or you can take one of the starting equipment packages in the PHB. Taking 5d4 times 10, your maximum gold is 200 gold. So let's see how that compares with the starting equipment package. With starting equipment, I would take options like the leather armor, the longbow, and the arrows. That is going to be important for starting out, especially if you don't take the human variant. Longbow is a really good ranged weapon. The hand crossbow and longsword you get from the next option. This allows you to go ahead and start the game with your hand crossbow and gives you a longsword to wield to go ahead and make attacks of opportunity when they are available. You get a light crossbow. This is important because it also starts you off with 20 bolts to be able to feed into your hand crossbow. The light crossbow at early levels has a 80-foot short range, which is basically going to give you the option to attack something that's at a further range than your hand crossbow will currently allow. And then I choose the Dungeoneer's pack out of the starting packages. So let's see how that compares. Leather armor is 10 gold. Longbow, 50 gold. Arrows, 1 gold. Hand crossbow is 75 gold. Longsword, 15 gold. Light crossbow, 25 gold. The 20 bolts you get for 1 gold. And the Dungeoneer's pack costs 12 gold pieces. Adding all that together is 189 gold. So as opposed to rolling, you would have to roll a 19 or 20 to be able to come out ahead. But there's an additional problem. In the player's handbook, you have a clause on page 143. When you create your character, you can choose the starting package and get the money from the background, and then it says alternatively, you can roll your gold. That means that when you choose to roll your gold, the starting money from your background, the 10 gold or the 5 gold or the 15, whatever you get from your background, you don't get that money. So most backgrounds, I feel, gives you 10 gold pieces. So now, instead of rolling a 19 or 20, you now have to roll maximum gold to have the equivalent of the starting equipment package. In my opinion, for this build, you need to go with the starting equipment package to get everything that you need. Skills and backgrounds. I'm not going to talk too much about all the individual choices. I feel like skills and backgrounds in 5th edition are a way to make the character you're trying to build happen. So if you're wanting a stealthy fighter, you're going to take stealth. If you're wanting a knowledgeable fighter, you're going to take arcana, you're going to take nature. Skills in this game are really more about fleshing out the RP side of the character. And I know a lot of people may not agree with that, but that's the way I feel when I'm making my characters. So you may instead choose to do it for optimization, taking your acrobatics, your athletics, taking your perception. What I did was I made a fighter recently. I took the sage background. This character was a archaeologist by trade. He was modeled a lot after Indiana Jones. I took the arcana and history from the sage, perception, and then you can either roll athletics or acrobatics from the fighter selection, your pick. And then I took investigation for my variant human skill choice. It really fleshed out the character a lot that he was this scholarly fighter almost. It put an interesting twist on the RP side. Let's talk about leveling up. At level 3, you're going to take your martial archetype. So let's talk about the 3 different choices you have: the champion, the battle master, and the eldritch knight. The champion for this build is actually pretty strong. One thing that you can do is actually take a feat to get a couple battle master maneuvers, and then you can use those maneuvers, one of them being trip attack. If you do a trip attack, that target is prone. Then you can actually walk up and get into melee with him. Now I know that sounds weird for the build, but it is an option, and sometimes it may be your only option. With a with advantage on attack and you have champion, you can, at level 15, you have roughly a 24% chance to crit on your die rolls. So that's actually really nice for this build. If you can get advantage through some other way, either by sneaking and surprising your opponent, you can actually do a volley at 120 feet and have a 24% chance to crit on each one of those attacks. Fighter having the most attacks per round of any of the other classes. Battlemaster, you have your combos, your maneuvers. A lot of them can be done at range. One of the first maneuvers I'd like to talk about is disarming attack. It is phrased when you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can expend 1 superiority dice to attempt to disarm the target, forcing it to drop 1 item of your choice that it's holding. You add the superiority dice to the attack's damage roll. The target makes a saving throw. On a failed save, it drops the object. This is really nice for your build because at range, keep in mind when you take sharpshooter, you're going to be able to attack on 120 feet. You can make somebody drop something. So when the big evil mage is holding the stone that he needs to make his spell work, 120 range, you can make that attack starting the engagement and maybe force him to drop it. It could delay the spell a round or two. Pushing attack. This is interesting when you combo it with disarming attack. Pushing attack is going to shove somebody 15 feet away from you if it succeeds. Why is that important? If you just made somebody drop their weapon or drop their item or drop their holy symbol to their feet, when you push them, they are going to go 15 feet away from said item that they drop. This is a really strong combination because you can now move into their space if you're available and actually pick up that item as a free action. So now it's actually on your person, and now they've got to make rolls to try and wrestle it away from you. This could change a lot of encounters. And keep in mind, you refresh superiority dice on a short rest. So potentially using this combo every time you have a encounter where it's available, you're going to have this combination up a lot during the course of any session. The next one we're going to talk about is Distracting Strike. When you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can expend your superiority dice. You give your allies an opening. Now this is important because you can attack it again at range and give your melee fighter or somebody an advantage on their next roll. This is a pretty strong thing to do because of the range that you're at. You're going to be able to choose anybody. Goading attack. When you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can expend 1 superiority dice, and you can make them attack you. You don't really make them attack you. However, if they attack anybody else, they're going to have disadvantage on their attack roll. This is really nice. Again, you are at range. If they're going to opt to attack you, which if the DM plays it from an RP standpoint, maybe you did taunt him well enough that he ignores the attacks of opportunity he's about to take just to come attack you. Let's talk about what I feel is the opposite of this is menacing attack, which forces an enemy to basically not move towards you. The effects of frightened means that he cannot willingly move towards you. Why is this important? As a ranged character, this gives you and your group kiting strength. You can now push the target back, hit him with a menacing attack. The next turn, he's not going to be able to willingly move towards you, and if you're with your group, he now cannot move anywhere close to your group. If he's a melee-only character, that means he's basically going to forfeit his turn. Precision attack is another maneuver that's extremely important. It cancels out the effect of sharpshooter's -5 attack. You have a chance to actually gain to hit using precision attack. In the earlier levels, the -5 or the maximum amount of damage that you can do is an 8. So basically using precision attack, you are now helping yourself do an extra 10 damage by increasing your to hit. Hopefully you roll a 5 or above on the D8. Trip attack is helpful, but you have to play the initiative game a little bit. If you trip somebody that's taking their turn right after yours, then the effect is not as good as if you attack somebody that's just taken their action. Trip allows you to take somebody down to a prone level, which is important because now any of your allies that come within 5 feet to attack him is going to have advantage on that character. That makes it a little bit better than some of the other maneuver choices if you can play the initiative game and plan your strategy around that. Let's talk about Eldritch Knight. One of the only things I have to touch on there is the level 3 spell choice. Playing with the options a little bit, you can actually take Haste pretty early on as a 3rd level spell. In the Elemental Evil book, the Princes of the Apocalypse, there's a spell called Flame Arrows. Flame Arrows is generally a bad choice for wizards, but for an Eldritch Knight, especially one running this build, Flame Arrows is going to give you an extra d6 of damage on every attack roll. Plus, it's going to allow you to always have your hand crossbow available to you. So that's extremely nice. At level 4, Sharpshooter. Now, if you took the Variant Human, which if you don't take the Variant Human, at level 4 now, this is when you're going to start getting your bonus attacks. The bonus attacks from Crossbow Mastery are very consistent, and that's why this build is even on par with some of the other builds. You get to do your bonus action consistently round to round, whereas with Great Weapon Master, you won't get to proc it as often. Polearm Master, you can proc it as often. You can proc it as long as there's another melee person. If you kill somebody and you don't have another melee target to go attack, you're not going to get that extra bonus action. You are more likely to have a target to attack within 120 feet every round to round. So as long as there's enemies standing, you're going to be able to get your bonus action. Level 4, Sharpshooter, is when you're going to start being able to make use of either that precision attack from the Battle Master to get your extra 10 damage. More importantly, this is when you can start attacking at 120 feet. So you get to start doing that at level 4 if you take the Variant Human. If you don't take Variant Human, this is the level where you're going to get your Crossbow Mastery. So you're just going to be down a couple levels. Level 5, you get extra attack. This is just really nice when it stacks up with your action surge. At level 6, normally you take an ability score improvement here because no other class gets an ability score improvement at level 6. If you are not a Variant Human, level 6 is where you would take Sharpshooter. At level 8, you get another one. If you are a Variant Human, I would take Magic Initiate at this level. If you are not a Variant Human, I would go ahead and get an ability score improvement right here, trying to get your dexterity. If you're using point buy, your dexterity is probably a 16. Try and get it bumped up to 18. Magic Initiate. Why do you take it? Hex. That's all that needs saying. Hex gives you an extra d6 when you're attacking a creature. Now, you can only do this one time per day. However, on certain monsters, such as like a dragon or something with just a lot of hit points, this is going to give you the power to take him down a lot faster. Plus, if you crit, your crit is going to do 4d6 damage instead of 2d6. Your regular hits are going to do 2d6. 2d6 is the same damage as a greatsword. So now you're doing greatsword damage at 120 feet. As you level up past there, so basically level 8, if you're a Variant Human, the build is done. You have to wait till level 12 if you're not a Variant Human to get the Magic Initiate feat. And then you get extra choices at level 14, 16, and 19, which I suggest just doing ability score improvements. If you've rolled your stats and you have higher than average stats, maybe you start looking for other feats, or maybe you feel very comfortable with the way that your stats are with the point buy system. One of the other feats that I suggest even taking a look at is the mobile feat. Your speed increases by a flat 10, so that means you're moving at 40. When you use the dash action, difficult terrain doesn't cost you extra movement on that turn. That's really important, again, for kiting, if you can actually make great use of the difficult terrain. And also, when you make a melee attack, you don't provoke attacks of opportunity. This is cool because you can make that attack with that longsword, which is going to proc your bonus action, and you can just move away from that opponent, increasing the gap between you and him, and then make that attack. So that's a pretty cool feature there. Otherwise, I would just take ability score improvements. So let's talk about multiclassing for a second. The build that I have laid out is 20 levels of fighter. You want that 20th level fighter for the 4 attacks per round, action surge, 4 additional attacks, and then the bonus attack. So why multi-class? Let's see what it costs you. The first thing it's going to cost you is the 4th attack per round at level 20. Looking at multi-classing at level 11 and beyond, or earlier if you really want to do it, but at least 11 levels of fighter gives you that 3rd attack every round. If you take a couple levels of a class, then you may not be sacrificing that much. 2 levels of warlock is going to give you a few things. First, 2 levels of warlock means you do not have to take magic initiate as a feat. You will get hex and it will refresh on a short rest. This is good because all of your fighter abilities reset on a short rest. So basically every time you take a short rest, your character gets a full reset. Basically for what he does from combat to combat. Things you can also do there is you can take Armor of Shadows, which is going to give you a 13 base armor class. The highest you can get right now using light armor would be a 12 base with studded leather. So a 13 base, if you have the high enough dexterity, if you have a +5 to your dexterity, that is going to mean that the Armor of Shadows plus your dexterity is going to be equivalent to plate armor at an 18 armor class base. The other thing you can do is take the coveted Devil Sight for the darkness immunity. That wraps up the build. Let me know what you think in the comments about my choices. What choices would you make? What adjustments would you make to this build? and just give me your overall opinions of what we have.